Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Finance and Capital Management Committee meeting, April 21st of 2025. Happy spring break for those of us who's fortunate to have and to be off and not working on spring break. And for those that's here, thank you for joining us on spring break. We're going to get right into the past minutes of the meeting, and I need a request to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Madam Chair, so moved.
All right, so moved and approved. Let me just note that Dr. Molinar will not attend the meeting today. The members of the meetings of this committee meeting is Dr. Molinar, Member Harrison, and myself, Barbara Sykes, the chair of the Finance and Capital Management Committee meeting. Also, I would note that our president, Carla Jackson, has also joined us. So let's just get right into the first financial topics, and let's hear from our treasurer as it relates to our state audit presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Member Pastor Harrison and Board President Carla Jackson. I appreciate the opportunity, and we have a lot to cover tonight, so I'm going to try to stay on point as much as I can, but I think it's really important to point out our audit and the findings from our audit, which I give 100% of the credit to the Finance Department. We truly have an amazing team of 15 people that work hard, never complain, get along. It's wonderful in our section of the world up there, and as a result, some positive things happen. We have a clean audit opinion, which is the best you can get. When they say clean, it's unmodified, the highest rating possible, and the financial statements. These are words pulled right off of the audit report itself. Financial statements are accurate and fully compliant with the GAAP. We have transparent reporting. We disclosed the $13.24 million in tax abatements due to the City of Akron's initiative programs. And that's important because, we want to be fully transparent in our reporting, and that was noted in our audit report. We have strong grant and funding management, which comes from a different department primarily, but they did a really good job, and they've accurately reported our receivables from the OFCC, which is our controller, who did a great job with that, and we've met all the eligibility requirements for state reimbursements, which is good. Under compliance and controls, there were no findings of material weaknesses or non-compliance, and we demonstrated strong internal controls and ethical practices. And so the bottom line is we are financially sound in terms of how we're managing or how we're accounting for our money. We're transparent, we're compliant, and it puts the district in, again, the words of the state auditor, as a trustworthy steward of public funds. So again, congratulations to all the folks that put that together and continue to work very hard to make sure that stays consistent. I also wanted to give a quick
okay, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Let me just see if our president or if our member has any questions of you. Any questions, Madam President?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Were there any recommendations from the auditor at all?
Yes. So what? A good question. So what came up, which you'll receive a presentation on as well. For example, some city school districts might have 30 or 40 people in their treasurer's department. We have 15. That doesn't mean that we're understaffed. What it means is that the work has been split primarily between HR and us. So as a result of that, there are some control issues in terms of who has access to information. And our auditor has cited in two of our last audits, 2 of the last years, that their recommendation is not necessarily that there's a problem, but this needs to be investigated, which we are in the process of doing. and we're reducing the number of people that have access to certain material, or access to the system where they could change or manipulate pay, for example, or where someone is on the salary schedule. And when you have multiple people that have the ability to do that, there's a risk involved with that, obviously, for fraud. So that is being currently revised, and you'll get a report on that soon as it's complete. But we're trying to limit it, but it's because of the fact that we're not all under one department. I'm not saying that's bad or inefficient. That's just the way it's structured.
Okay. Fine, no follow-up. Okay, Member Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My understanding was that will be reported in the form of a management letter, and those are public letters, and so that we could, anybody could.
Anyone.
After an audit with the management letter, they can see that the recommendations, and that was, that particular subject was related to IT.
Yes.
Information technology.
Right, and then we're split into really three groups have access to all that, and primarily it was IT and some HR and some in the finance department as well.
Yeah.
Any follow-up? Thank you. All right, Mr. Treasurer, we'll move on to the vouchers update.
Yeah. So we focused a lot on vouchers, as we should. And we've discussed this before, but we have some additional information that I think is important for us to keep on the radar screen, especially as we're making our way through House Bill 96. But of course, Ohio's Ed Choice Scholarship Program uses public school dollars to fund private school tuition. And it was originally, or it started as a way for underperforming schools, for students to have opportunities to leave underperforming schools and attend a private school. And now that is no longer the case. Those vouchers are available essentially almost universally to almost all students, public school students in the state of Ohio. And you can see here, even those that are above 400% of the poverty line, which is where we're at now for the full voucher, even people above that are eligible for partial scholarships. So how have the vouchers, or who's participating in our district? We have a total of 3,141 students that are in the voucher program. The traditional Ed Choice is 2,540. With the Ed Choice expansion, which is income-based, it was another 601 students joined. And the majority of those students never attended Akron Public Schools, or have never attended Akron Public Schools. So the breakdown on that, the base cost is $5,600. Then there's targeted assistance at $1,600, DPIA at $1,100, supplemental targeted assistance for another $122. And total loss this past fiscal year due to vouchers is over almost $27 million that have come from Akron, which would have originally gone to Akron Public Schools. Now, I will put a caveat here. Obviously, when kids leave the district, it's not one for one, but when kids leave the district, then we have potentially less of a need for staffing, and could potentially reduce our own expenditures. But remember, the vast majority of these kids never attended Akron Public Schools, so our staffing was never based on them attending in the first place. Demographic and operational impacts. What you see primarily is departure of high-achieving students often. Potential increase in racial and income segregation occurs as a result of vouchers. It's an impact. That creates operational challenges due to enrollment shifts. How do you balance your schools? Some of the legal and constitutional considerations, I thought this was important to note, that there has been a U.S. Supreme Court case in 2002 as it related to vouchers when it first came out. The challenge was, of course, that we're using public school dollars to support either Catholic or Christian schools. So there clearly is a violation, or at least that was what was brought before the Supreme Court. But they ruled that it was given to the parents and not directly to religious schools, so therefore it's not a violation. And that's how this has really grown as a result of that ruling. So in conclusion, offering school choice vouchers presents fiscal and equity challenges to APS and really public schools across the entire state. I really feel like we need to consider and still analyze what this is really doing to public schools. It's a debate that needs to continue, as we understand that parental choice is important. But we also have to maintain public schools where the vast majority of kids attend. Nearly 90% of Ohio school students attend public schools, not charter schools, not private schools.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Any questions? Any questions, any comments? Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Let us move on to the 5-year forecast update, please.
Sure. So again, we keep hitting this, and this is going to be incredibly challenging in May. The board needs to approve, or is statutorily required to approve a 5-year forecast by May 31st. I have to submit on or before May 31st. So we'll come early in May, so it's just a few weeks away. The challenge is I don't know what's going to be on House Bill 96. I only know what's in there now, and it changes as fast as we get a new document updating us on what's happening. So that is real.
Excuse me, Mr. Treasurer, when you say House Bill 96, just for the public, would you explain
House Bill 96 is the governor's budget bill. So the governor presents a budget. It first goes to the House, which it's gone through. It's now in the Senate. It will not be finalized until June. So obviously well past the May deadline for our 5-year forecast. So the general consensus amongst treasurers is that we will base our 5-year forecast on what we know, based on what we see that's in the bill at that time, and then we'll make modifications and resubmit to ODE maybe in July when we can look at it again. So I anticipate having a 5-year forecast in early May to you, followed by probably a revision or an update in July. That's what I'm anticipating. So this is our November 5-year forecast as we filed it in November, and it was based on, you can see the major assumptions below, what the wage increase was based on. This is an incorrect assumption, I think it's fair to say at this point, but the continued phase-in, the second one down, the second bullet, the continued phase-in and base cost inputs of the Fair School Funding Plan would continue as was originally passed, and we know that that is almost assuredly not going to happen. We also budgeted at 8% increase in health insurance from fiscal years 26 through 29, and then a reduction of $10 million in permanent expenditures beginning in fiscal year 26. The last bullet were all things that we updated. Those were all positive, and we updated those prior to this forecast going through. So again, if you focus, well, my dot doesn't work very, yeah, it does. Okay, here we go. So if you focus on the bottom here for the board members over, well, it won't go through on that one, it's too bright. But that bottom line, ending balance, you can see, and I really want to emphasize this and make sure we're using the right vernacular when we talk about this. We are in deficit spending. That's the line above it where you see the red. Mm-hmm. But we are not in a deficit because of our cash reserves. So it'd be much like, you know, you have a check, you get a paycheck, your bills exceed your paycheck, but you have $100,000 in the bank, and you just keep eating into your $100,000. That's exactly what we're doing as a school district. It's it shouldn't be taken as negative against anyone in particular. It is the boom and bust cycle that we know because of House Bill 920. Freezing revenue, pass a levy, bring in more money than you need. The unfortunate part for us is you can see where it says $20 million deficit spending, then fiscal year 26, we're not in deficit spending, and then we're right back in it. That's because we receive proceeds from our levy. But look how long it lasted before we're right back in deficit spending. That's alarming. And many school districts are facing exactly this. But unfortunately, this is before the last budget, before what we know is in budget bill, the governor's budget bill, House Bill 96 right now. So I've shown you this before, but I think it's worth taking a look at. This is the best that we know as of right now, the reductions in funding that we anticipate if the bill continues to go through as is. So those are not adding 1 year with the next. That's dollar amount lost per year. So it's over $40 million. Now keep in mind this number, 16 million. Right here on 2029, 16 million in cash reserves. But we're taking 40 million out. Watch what happens. $35 million deficit. 16 million to the good turns into $35 million in the hole. So if this were to hold, this forecast were to hold, about right here is where ODE is going to start really being engaged with APS in terms of where we stand. This this forecast assumes 1%, and it assumes everything that we previously went through to include the 10 million in reductions, et cetera. Imperative that if our goal is to get to 2028 for a presidential cycle, 2 shots at a levy, you can see here if according to this 5-year forecast, we don't have a lot of wiggle room here. 22 million sounds like a lot, but remember, we're spending about 33 million a month. So that's not even enough money to get us through a month in cash reserves, much less 2, which is what our board policy states. So that's where, again, that's where we stand right now. And then, and of course, this is previous to negotiations as well.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Also, let's just note that in House Bill 96, it also indicates that we cannot carry over 25% of cash reserve more than our.
The latest one they did up it to 30%.
30%. Okay.
But the beautiful thing is, if there's a silver lining to our cloud,
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about it.
Right. Yeah, I know. But I think we could get there. We could get there. All right. Any questions from the committee members or the president? Okay. I think part of also the 5-year forecast consists of the administration with your information on the cuts. So if there's someone here from the administration that want to add anything to that, I noticed that our interim superintendent is here. Welcome. Madam Superintendent, would you like to join us here around the table? And I don't know, Mrs. Carter, would you like to join us?
You want to jump in? You know.
What computer is connected? What computer is connected?
This one is. Yeah, this one is.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
So, Mrs. Carter, what I would like to do is if we could just, it's a 5-year forecast, and then under unfinished business, it is reduction in force plan, in the force plan. So I think those just kind of go hand in hand. So we can, if it would be easier for you, I think it just kind of, if the majority of that is going to be the discussion of reduction in force plan, we can talk about that now. Thank you, Mrs. Carter.
Okay. So I'd given you a summary of the reduction in force, and you had asked for more detail. So greeting, Board Member Chair Sykes and Board Member Harrison, President Jackson, Interim Superintendent Mary Outley, and Treasurer Dr. Thompson. And so it's divided amongst the division and departments. And so the first page, when you flip your page, it'll show you the itemized details that falls under the Department of Teaching and Learning. The positions consist of either retirement, not filling some vacancies, or transferring funds from general funds to either Part B, which is special ed funding, or title funds to help with supporting that particular reduction within our general funds. The next positions fall under the Department of College and Career Academies. We have 2 positions that are being RIF'd, 1 position that will be absorbed through attrition. Next, we have the Department of Special Education, which is also a part of our divisions of academics. And we have a RIF of 4 school psychologists, also 4 special education teachers from the closing of one of our schools, and then also 4 parapros from the closing of one of our schools, Essex. Next, we have a lead consultant teacher position that will be a part of the reduction in force. Next, under business affairs, we have a property management supervisor position as well as a warehouse worker position that will be RIF'd. Under human capital, we have a chief of staff position that will be eliminated, as well as we will look at reducing hours for our admin specialists. And admin specialists are as needed. And so we're going to look at minimizing the use of admin specialists. Next, we have our facilities department, and we have a RIF of 2 foreman positions. One actually resigned. We have a RIF of 1, and 1 is eliminated through attrition, resignation. We have some 8-hour custodial positions as well as 5-hour custodial positions. Some of these positions will be reduced in hours, or we're reducing the positions from a location, but they'll still have some assignments. We have vacancies that they'll go into as it relates to some of these positions. And with the custodial positions, we won't know if anyone will actually receive a reduction in force letter unless they choose not to take an open assignment. So we may be eliminating this 5-hour position from Krause, but there is one open over here at this building, so it's going to be up to that individual employee if they want to move over to that open assignment. Next, we have the Department of Technology. We have 1 foreman position and 1 repairman position being RIF'd. Next, we have the Department of School Counseling and Student Wellness. We have a director retiring, and we also had a counselor retire. Those are both attrition. Next, we have some administrative positions that fall under our Department of School Leadership. We have a leader of campus support position being eliminated, 2 academy principal positions being eliminated, and a dean position being eliminated. These are being eliminated through attrition, and then the other 2 are going into vacant academy principal positions, the LOC and the dean. Next, on the board doc, this is not part of general fund, but I put it on this slide because it is a part of our board recommendations that we're asking for. The Department of School Counseling and Student Wellness is looking at a partial RIF of 4 student success coaches. And so that will be changing a 52-week contract to a 38-week contract. And that's grant funded, and it is due to grant funds, basically, why she's recommending for those reductions. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Carter. Madam Superintendent, did you want to add anything?
Thank you, Board Chair. I had the opportunity to meet with Ms. Carter earlier today, along with our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Caver, to make sure I had a clear understanding of the reductions. And this is currently the proposal that will be presented to the board, and I am okay with it. I do not have any additional questions or anything to add at this time.
Okay, no additional comments. Thank you. Member Harrison, President Jackson, did you have any questions, any comments?
I have a few questions, and we went through this pretty quickly, and this is our first time being able to see exactly where the cuts are coming from. I am uncomfortable with some of the cuts because we have gotten a lot of feedback, and this is actually just one email with attachments that would indicate that some of the numbers or some of the ratios that we have gotten may not be apples to apples. I can't really explain it because I'm still trying to understand it, but some of the ratios may not be apples to apples comparison. Also, there is some questions as to, for me, that have been raised that I don't have the answer to, as to if some of these cuts were due to some sort of retaliation. So overall, I would like to understand how we came to these cuts and why. And I know it's not, you can't explain everything to me because I'm not going to understand everything if you try. But it seems to me that special ed is weighted heavy in these cuts. And that may just be a perception that I have, or maybe I'm not understanding. But when I see 4 psychologists cut,
So for the school psychologist, whenever we talked about that last time, so we have 27 school psychologists in district. And then we have what we call 41-week and 44-week. So a 38-week is a typical kind of student school calendar. Then all of our school psychologists work 41 weeks, which is a week after and then 2 weeks before students come back. That's where they do their administrative tasks, finishing up documents, finalizing, submitting, all of that sort of stuff. Then we have the 4 that are on the reduction list that are 44 weeks. So they work an additional week after and an additional 2 weeks before. The recommendation is to bring everyone in alignment with 41 weeks. So it's not eliminating a position or pulling anybody back. It's just putting everybody in alignment to the 41 weeks.
So if I have a child that's waiting on the IEP, what is the time? What is a reasonable amount of time that I would be waiting for IEP?
Yeah, so we have mandated timelines that we have to follow. Whenever we start an initial evaluation is different than, say, like the triennial review. Initial evaluations is 60 days from consent to initial evaluation, and then an additional 30 days to an IEP. So we have 90 days total on an initial evaluation.
So what are we averaging?
We hit the 60 days for, is that what you're asking, like on the timeline?
Okay, and I guess what I'm trying to find, I'm trying to,
Yeah.
in my mind, gauge.
Sure.
Okay, if we have 90 days to do this, and it's taken us 78 days now, okay, and we cut 4 people, that would increase the time that I would have to wait till it started, and it would also take me past 78 more than likely. So, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it.
No, I understand your question now, thank you. So we don't, during the time from the end of year to the beginning of year, we're not outside of those timelines, because part of the evaluation process, we have mandated members as well. So the school psychologist has to have an intervention specialist at the ETR meeting. They have to have the district rep, a general education teacher. So it's not just the school psychologist that
I just want to talk about the psychologist right now.
Sure, but so inside that timeline, everybody is required to be in that. So we're never outside that timeline, given the extra weeks that the school psychologist has, because they can't complete documents during those times anyhow, because we don't have other mandated members to participate. So we don't go outside of that timeline.
Okay. Madam Chair, I have a lot of questions, and I'll just kind of go through this tonight and submit the questions. You know, and I just generally want to say this is why we asked for this earlier, because you want us to approve something that we really haven't had a chance to dissect. And so we have a lot of emails coming in, and so to read the emails, to be really fair to everyone, to read the emails and try to understand this is just too much information at too late of a time. So I'll go through it, Madam Chair, and submit some questions. But again, for me, at this particular time, I would not be able to vote on any reductions that I'm not comfortable, that I understand. And I'm not going to understand the actual, I know we have to cut money. That's, somebody's not going to be happy. We're going to have to reduce some jobs somewhere, but I want to be comfortable that I'm doing the right thing.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Madam Superintendent.
Thank you. I was just wondering, Member Harrison, is it possible, would it be appropriate for you to be able to get the questions in advance so that it could be presented to you as an update at the meeting as part of the presentation for you, the
Yes,
board?
ma'am. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't clear. That's what I was saying. I was going to submit them.
Thank you. That would help.
Thank you, Mrs. Carter. Madam Superintendent, and Madam President. So I think we just want to keep in mind that May 31st is that deadline that we need to present the 5-year forecast to the state. May 31st, Mr. Treasurer, is the date that we need to have that submitted.
Yes. Required statutorily to be to ODE before the I'm going to say the 30th just to make myself feel better, but yes.
Yeah, so we have to have that, and in order to do that, we will have to vote at a board meeting to accept the 5-year forecast. So for all questions and information that we're looking for, and then at some point we may just have to recognize that we're not going to all agree on the cuts. We're not going to all agree upon the recommendation, but what we will have to agree upon is something that we're going to send down to the state of Ohio by May 30th to say this is our proposed plan. Also recognizing that we can continue to update and amend the forecast. It is not in stone, but we want to make sure that we're continuing updating the forecast and meeting those deadlines for the state of Ohio. So is there another area? Were there other questions that we had as it related to the cuts. I think on the operations, Mrs. Carter, there were like $4 million in cuts on the operations. That brought us up to the 10.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and
None of those have changed. You're still making those same recommendations? Okay.
he's not here.
Right. Understood. So, okay, Madam President, do you have any thoughts? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question, I have two questions. Is that fine, Madam Chair?
Yes.
My first question is, how many of the jobs, this is for you probably, Chief of Staff, Ms. Carter, about the reduction. I'm going to ask a question about how many jobs that were added within the last 5 years have also been cut? Like, are any of these jobs, you know how they're, when we had ESSER funds, like jobs that's been added in the last 5 years, whether they're administrative, central office heavy, or additional building services, how many of those, do we have the information to reflect these are positions that were added within the last 5 years?
No, but I can get that. I know a lot of our custodial positions were added.
Can she come to the mic?
I know that when we had to do extensive cleaning and things like that, I know that our custodial staff had bumped up there, but I don't have an exact number, but I can work with Dr. Thompson and look at what positions were added via ESSER funds.
Yeah, because I know with some of those positions that were added with ESSER, and then we went into general funds because we felt that it was a need, whether it's some instructional coaches and things like that. Within the last 5 years, for me, I think I would like to see that as far as where they're at on the RIF schedule. Additionally, with the teaching, with the academic portion and the teaching and learning, I'm just curious because I see a lot of these intervention specialists, special education coordinator, and the only reason that this is standing out to me because of faith. And so if, I know like by law we have to meet those requirements. I understand how the IEP works and the turnaround time with the IEPs. And I also know that there are some delays with IEPs because if parents don't turn in the questionnaires or the teachers in a allotted time, that causes delays in our system as well. My concern is with the intervention specialists, those are required. Like that's required on many of these IEPs that the students have, that there must be an intervention specialist. So I'm just concerned when when I see intervention specialists being cut, and then the paraprofessionals, when on previous agendas, we have a need for paraprofessionals. If I'm missing something.
So the paraprofessional positions are those positions that are closing because of Essex closing. So we still have tons of vacant parapro positions that we need to fill. We just don't need to fill those 4 because they don't exist anymore.
But there'll still be
Starting the 25-26 school year. But we have planned the same number of parapros that we always have planned for all classes that will be up and running for next school year.
Okay, because that's where my question was going. Even though I understand the closure with the Essex paraprofessionals, because we're already at a deficit of need for paraprofessionals, that the money, that what's being spent on them is still going to be spent.
Correct.
Because they're going to fill so it's not going to free up money.
Correct. And then like that special ed coordinator position, the position is not being lost to funding. We're just adjusting the funding to free up general fund.
Yeah, I saw it where it says transfer the
Yes,
funds. Okay,
yes.
I understand that. So, okay, you cleared up that about the paraprofessionals because it's not going to be a savings. It's kind of like a wash.
Go ahead.
So yes, it's the same with the paraprofessional and their intervention specialist. There are vacant positions that they can move into, so what you're saying about a wash is pretty accurate. So with the closing of Essex, we no longer need those positions, but we will have positions open in the district that they can move into. So the positions of intervention specialist, paraprofessional at Essex are no longer around, but we have vacant positions in the district that can be absorb those individuals.
Okay, I understand that. I'm thinking I'm not wording what I'm saying properly. Because what I'm saying is, because I understand what you're saying, and what I'm saying is a wash. Because is this supposed to show us where we're going to save money so that we know where we are at position in our 5-year forecast?
And so there are 3 positions that are being sped positions.
That's being eliminated.
Correct, because we don't have the students to support those 3. So that was based off of our overall sped staffing. After doing that, we had -3 after we did our ads and reductions from buildings. Some buildings were added more intervention specialists, some were reduced, some units were moved around, and then after all of the staffing with special ed, they had 3 positions that we were not in need of.
Okay,
you would
so
have to
this
talk more to-
intervention specialist position that's eliminated with the $255,000 is what you're talking about, right? Okay. It seems like the special ed numbers in the district increased, that they didn't decrease overall the student population. From the last, Dr. Caver, can you come up?
Sure.
Because I'm vaguely recalling some data, and I understand this is not an instructional policy meeting, so I'm not going to belabor and I'll readdress it there. But I thought that we had some increase in students qualifying for special ed services or IEP requests within the district.
So, President Jackson, if I could just take the liberty of explaining specifically the special ed positions that are listed here for the 255. If these are all, I'm sorry I didn't have one of these in front of me, so just let me get caught up really quickly. These 4 positions that are listed here in those 4 paras we had 4, more than 4, we have 5 classrooms that were ELP classrooms that currently have subs in them. And so when we are doing the restructuring of moving them out into the buildings, because we have classrooms that had subs and all of our ELP classrooms are not full to capacity, so we did some restructuring, and basically we're saying, well, you put those children in classrooms, some of them move on anyway, but we put our children in classrooms with certified teachers, and is there a need to cut back on the number of classrooms that we have, particularly that don't have a para in them? You know, we have a shortage of paras, or that don't have a certified teacher, and we're doing a sub anyway.
Okay.
So when we did that, then we were able to eliminate those few classrooms. And so basically, it's an elimination of those classrooms that specifically have intervention specialists, certified teachers in them usually, but we're not eliminating any particular person is not being riffed.
Okay.
So in that case, that's what happened there. We closed, 4 or 5, 4 classrooms over at Essex total. We are opening 2 classrooms somewhere else in the district at King. And so the actual individual people, so it looks like we are reducing special education teachers overall. But right now we're saying what we did is just reconfigure in a better way so those positions get eliminated, but not individual people.
Okay, and then we know as far as the numbers, the highest needs as far as the build, because they go where the building, where the need is at for the intervention specialists. And we're talking about the push-in model, like the intervention specialists in the classroom or pull out.
So these are actually core classroom teacher positions.
Okay. Okay.
So just as an example of,
Excuse me, we want to stick with time, but I think the president understands.
Okay.
So was there anything else, Madam President? Okay. So, and let me just note that this is a committee meeting, and so we can be a little less formal than we are at our formal board meetings. And I did not ask at the beginning if there was anyone in the audience that was here to make a statement to the board. So if there's a statement that anyone would like to make before we proceed, Going once, going twice, 3 times? All right, we're going to move on. Thank you. And looking at the calendar, let me just note that like we have 2 meetings left, April 28th and May 12th. Because I suppose because of the Memorial Day weekend, I don't see that we're meeting twice in the month of May. Correct me if that's wrong, administration. So I think that we're not scheduled to meet but once in May. And so we need to have this on our agenda May 12th in order to pass it in time to get down to Columbus on May 30th. All right? So that's where we are. So if there's no other questions, and we understand, Member Harrison, that you're going to submit yours to the administration with the understanding that they're going to get that information back to you before that May 12th deadline, and hopefully you will share that with all of the other board members as you receive the information from the administration. The administration will share that with all of the board members so that we can continue to try and make sure that we make the best decisions. All righty, so we're at, where are we? We are at the van drivers contract update.
Good afternoon, Chairman Sykes, Co-Chairman Harrison, President of the Board Jackson, Superintendent Otley, and Treasurer Thompson. Thanks. Okay, where did that go? I am happy to report that the RFP that we put out for van contract services for the 25-26 year opened and was received by all vendors on Friday, April the 4th. We received a total of 18 vendor responses to that request, and they have been compiled. We currently started this morning vetting and reviewing those responses with the following areas covered by the review team: administration, communications, business affairs, purchasing, and transportation staff members. Once we are done completing and reviewing those results, we plan to take those results to the treasurer and the superintendent for review, and followed up with a recommendation to the board at one of the meetings in May. We would like to see an approval in May of 25 by the board so that we can start routing with a determination at once the rollover of the student population has advanced, which will occur mid-June, because we need to start routing at the end of June in order to get everything set up. But that's the timeline that I would like to advise you tonight. So we have started that review process, and we'll continue to move it forward. And as an example, last year we had 15 responses to our RFP. This year we have 18. So we have done our due diligence in looking for responses to this RFP.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, Member Harrison, President Jackson?
How many vendors are we using now?
Currently for van transport, you have your ICOs, and there are currently 120. And then the actual service contract is one contract with Templeton Services, which was approved at the first meeting in August of last summer, after we went through our first RFP of this process last year.
Okay. Ms. Folk, it would be helpful for me if you sent us the information.
I am more than happy to.
As you did. I can't remember the contract.
That's okay.
But you know what I'm talking about.
do.
The ranking.
I would plan on putting it in the Friday notes for this week.
Okay.
So that you will have that update as we move forward.
Thank you.
But we needed to meet this morning to start the vetting process with the team members. And please be advised that the rubric was developed with legal counsel in mind. So, and that was Attorney Roth. All righty?
Attorney Roth from?
Retzel and Andrus. He is our transportation specialist, and he has helped us with some compliance issues with ODE. As an example, we had a non-compliance issue that came up earlier. He assisted us in planning that mediation, and it was successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one other thing to note, as I said, that it appears that we only have one meeting in May. So that's May 12th. So just And I think if you could provide as much information to
We
board
plan.
members as possible before the May 12th deadline.
We also do have a board, while the board meeting on the 12th is there, we do have another board meeting on Tuesday, the 27th of May as well.
Oh, we do?
Yes. So therefore, it can't be on the 26th because of Memorial Day, so your second board meeting in May is the 27th.
Okay, that's what we were looking for and could not find it because it wasn't on a Monday, it was on a Tuesday.
All right?
I'll say, so Tuesday the 27th. So is that the date that you're planning on
I
bringing
would
it
like to bring it to you as forward as we can, as soon as possible, but we would just like the process completed no later than the 27th of May.
But the 27th of May is
The board meeting, and I want to bring it back to the Finance Committee prior to that.
and when does the contract start?
They don't start until July 1st,
To July 1st?
but we need to have it ready so we can start routing after we promote our students through our regular process to know what grade level schools, et cetera, we are processing. And then the other thing I can advise you, and it's related to your other issue that came up earlier under Dr. Thompson's voucher issue. We have opened our RFT process for our students that attend non-publics and community schools. Those are the students that we have to transport in other avenues. That opened after a meeting at the middle of March on April 1st. And we've already started processing, and the first base report that came out last Thursday was we've already processed almost 700 students requesting transport from that process for the 25-26 school year. We currently have 3,600 students that have gone through this process as of last Thursday for the 24-25 school year. So those transportation parts are another part of the use of the voucher system, because as you know, Ms. Sykes, we've talked about what the district is required to do in transport for those students as well.
Yes. Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
all right. There's nothing else? All righty. There's no more questions. I see there's a hand up in the audience, and as I said, we try to be a little bit more informal. We got a few more minutes left. No, it's fine. It's come to the mic, yes. Now, I would just caution you that they may be a little bit limited on what they can answer because.
Just real quick, you mentioned the 3,600 students. Is that, will the van drivers be transporting Ed Choice students this upcoming school year?
No, those are different. Those are bus
Oh, so that had nothing to do with the vans?
had to do with the vouchers and the fact that
Okay, I'm sorry. I was confused on that.
no problem. Good question.
Okay.
But what about the summer children? So like if the current vendor's contract ends in the end of June, and we know that there are van services that are provided in July for like the mystery camps and all of that, then how would that work? Because I guess I'm confused because you're saying that you guys are routing, but I thought whoever.
Our summer events are all scheduled for June. We do not have any events currently scheduled for July, and we have moved some of the latter July to late July so we will be able to cover.
So there's also no like Bridges summer school in the month of July?
Bridges Summer School has been moved to June.
Okay.
All righty. Okay, so if there's no more questions, no more comments as it relates to the van drivers contract update, we will just move on to board members' event information. Mr. Treasurer.
I have to say I'm quite shocked that Deborah came up here and knew exactly when and why the board meeting was on Tuesday and not Monday. Leave it to our encyclopedia out there to know that. But yes, if you just click, you can click on this link. Everything's updated in terms of your monthly update on what's happening for board members to participate and attend, know what's occurring. So that continues. We've already covered this one.
Yes, we've already covered unfinished business.
I am
Reduction in
pleasantly surprised to say we made it through our agenda.
Yes, we did. It's possible. It's possible. So if there's nothing else that's coming before the committee, then this committee will end at 5:25 p.m., Finance and Capital Management Committee meeting, and we will see you. We will announce our next committee meeting via our website. Thank you. Thank everyone for attending.